back to iSolved University and our iSolved Time Admin training. After completing part 3 of this training, you will be able to successfully enter punches, successfully enter hours, and understand how to edit, copy, or move time on your employees' time cards. I'm going to pull up iSolved and let's start. As I pull up the time card, we're going to start with entering punches. Now in part 2, we talked about our action bar and being able to go into edit mode. So remember, in order to make adjustments on an employee's time card, you must select the edit button before making changes. So to enter a punch, we're going to select edit, and we need to select the day and the time that we would like to enter the punch for. Thursday the 8th is a great example where we've had the employee clock in, but they're missing their clock out punch for the day. To enter this, we'll simply hover over the time that we would like the punch to appear at, click once on the time card, and you'll notice we get an Add Record pop-up. We're being asked, would you like to add an hour record or a punch record? In our scenario, we're going to choose punch. When we select this, our punch window appears and most options default. So let's take a look at each of the options available. The first thing you'll notice is the punch date and the punch time. This is driven by the date and the time that you were on when you select it on the time card. If you'd like to adjust this information, you can simply select the box and type it in or use the calendar view. Now beneath that, we've got a type and a mode. So let's talk about these options. The type has 3 available options to select from: normal, meal, or break. Normal punches are things like a standard clock in or a standard clock out for the day. Meal and break are utilized if your company has employees clocking in and out for their meal time and their break time throughout the day. If you guys are utilizing this feature, be sure that when the employee leaves for lunch and comes back from lunch, they're selecting the meal option. For this scenario, we're going to choose the normal and move on to our mode. Now, mode has 4 options: auto, in, out, or transfer. Auto is used if you'd like the system to do the work for you. The way that it works is you have a 7 a.m. punch and an 8 a.m. punch. It puts the punches in the order that it was received. So it's smart enough to know that 7 a.m. comes before 8 a.m. and will put it on the time card appropriately. You do, although, have the ability to say, I want this to be the employee's in punch, or I want this to be their out punch. The last option in the mode is a transfer. Transfer is used for companies that have employees moving from labor value to labor value throughout the day. So an example of this could be jobs. I clock into job A at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I need to transfer to job B, let's say at 10 o'clock. Rather than having to clock out of job A and then create a second punch to clock in to job B, the transfer option does that for us. So in just a few moments, I'll show you how a transfer works. Just beneath that, you do have the ability to override the labor defaults. Labor defaults are there as the employee has a default location and default department assigned to them. So if you would like this punch or the hours you add on the time card to be tied to a different labor value, you simply select the drop-downs and choose accordingly. Now just beneath that, you'll notice we do have a do not round option. In the event that your company uses any rounding rules, this checkbox allows you to determine that you do not want this specific punch to round. So let's say that you used a nearest 15-minute rounding. Typically, if you entered a punch at 4:02, it would round back to 4 o'clock. If we selected the do not round option, the punch would stay at that 4:02 time. Now the last option that's on here is a section for notes. Now notes are not required, but highly recommended. Notes are a great way to keep track of all of the changes that are being made on the time card and why. So I always like to enter in, Mary missed a punch, or Mary forgot to clock out. Something simple, but again, something letting everybody looking at the timesheet know why there's an adjustment. After you enter your notes, you'll simply hit save and you'll notice that our punch has appeared on the time card, as well as we've got a punch saved and a save complete notification. Now you're probably noticing that Thursday's time still looks a little bit different than any of the other chunks of time on the time card. The reason for that is we need to show our results, which saves all of the changes we've just made. So if we hit show results, you'll notice that our time, rather than being 2 chunks, is now 1 block of time. So now that we've talked about entering punches, let's talk about entering a transfer punch. I talked about what a transfer punch was, but let's enter one so you can see how it works. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up into my edit mode, and we're going to come to Saturday the 10th, and I'm going to say that at 8 a.m. I want to create a punch. So I hover over, click once, and I'm going to click the punch option. Now I'm going to keep everything default for this punch. So it's going to be an 8 a.m. punch tied to location 2 and department 201. Once I hit save, you're going to notice that we get our notification at the top that our punch was saved, and we see our block of time. What I'd like to do now is create a punch at 11 o'clock where I'm transferring to a new location or new department. So I simply hover on the time card where I would like the punch to appear, click once, and this time I'm going to choose punch, but I'm going to change my mode to transfer. Now this time I'm going to change my location to location 1 and maybe department 2. So I'm going from 2 to 1 to 201 to department 2. When I choose the save option, you're going to notice that 2 punches appear on the time card. One punch that's clocking me out of my defaults, my location 2 and department 201, and a secondary punch that's clocking me into my new location and department. So if I hit save, you'll notice up at the top I get my punch saved and my save complete. When I show my results, we're going to see those 2 punches. You'll notice I have my 11 o'clock that's tied to my 8 a.m. So from 8 a.m. to 11, I was working in location 2 and department 201. And then I've got my clock in at 11 a.m. to location 1 and location 2. The benefit of using the transfer feature is the employee's not losing time in between punches. You know, they might be a little bit slower at creating punches, so if they add a punch into the system and it takes them 2 minutes, they're losing 2 minutes of that worked time by creating multiple punches. Now let's talk about adding hours onto the time card. Entering hours is typically used as a quick method of adding time onto the time card. So once again, we're going to come up here into edit mode. I'm going to come over to Tuesday the 13th, and what you'll notice is rather than just clicking once, I'm going to click and drag, and you're going to see time highlight on the time card. So if I click and drag, you'll notice my time's highlighting in gold. It's allowing me to see the time that I'm going to be adding hour-wise based on where I'm dragging. So right now I'm at 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. As soon as I let go of my mouse, it's asking, do you want to add an hour or do you want to add a punch? I'm going to choose the hour option, and you'll notice the screen looks very similar. The only difference is now we're seeing our start time, our end time. We still have the ability to choose our type, whether it's a normal punch, a lunch punch, or a break punch, as well as our duration. Now the duration is driven by the time between the start time and the end time. Now if you need to adjust the time just like we did on the punches, feel free to click in the box and adjust. You do have the ability to add in those labor overrides if necessary, as well as any notes, and then go ahead and hit save. You'll notice when I hit save, we can see our block of time and our save complete notification at the top of the screen. If we hit show results, the hours will appear with their color coding. So we've talked about adding standard punches, adding transfer punches, and adding hours. Let's talk about some of the other features that are available on the time card, such as copy and move. Maybe you entered time on one day that you need to enter on multiple days. Well, rather than going in and redoing the work, you can simply copy it and paste it onto one day. So again, remember, if we want to make changes on the time card, we go into our edit mode, and let's use Tuesday the 13th as an example. If we want to copy or move the time, we simply hover over the block, Scoot it over, you'll notice that it's kind of got an image that's moving where we can pick. And when I let go, it's asking, do you want to move the time or do you want to copy it? Now the difference between the two, move it would mean we were taking it from the existing day and moving it to the second day or to the new day. So it wouldn't appear in both. You're moving it from one area to the next. Copy means I want to copy the information and paste it onto the day that I've selected. So for this scenario, I'm going to choose move. You'll notice that my block of time moved from Tuesday to Wednesday, and then if I hit show results, the hours will show up with their color coding. Now let's talk about copying. So again, I'll go back into my edit mode. I'm going to grab my information for Friday the 9th. Again, if I click once, I can drag it around to choose where I'd like it to appear. Once I let go, again, do I want to move it or do I want to copy? If I copy it, you'll notice that it's existing in both places. In order for it to appear with the color coding, we need to hit our show results, and you'll notice that it appears on the day we copied it to. So think of the time card like an Excel workbook. You have the ability to add things in there, but you can also edit, copy, or paste. Now, a few more other small features that I want to talk to you about. What about our deleting or editing existing time? So let's say that we needed to delete some time off the time card. Maybe on Thursday, these hours that we moved were moved onto the wrong day. If we go back into our edit mode and hover over the block of time, you'll notice at the bottom we've got a little trash can icon which allows us to delete the time from the time card. Now all you do is select the icon, and at the top it tells us the item has been deleted. Now what about editing? Maybe we need to adjust the time on Wednesday the 14th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. To 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Again, as long as we're in the edit mode, we hover over the block of time, and down at the bottom, the icon that has a paper with a pen allows us to edit. So if I select the icon, you'll notice our hours or our punch window appears for us to make adjustments. So I'll come into my end time, and I'm going to change this to 4 p.m. In my notes, I might put why I'm making the adjustment. Down here at the bottom, if I hit save, you'll notice we get our notifications at the top that it was completed, and if we show our results, we'll see the color coding. The last piece we're going to look at together in this section is time card adjustments. Now, time card adjustments allow your company to have a manager, supervisor, administrator, or even an employee add adjusted time to their records. A great example of why you might use adjustments are mileage. Maybe your company has drivers and they need to keep track of the miles driven. You can give them the ability to add an adjustment that will calculate the miles for you. So if I go back into my edit mode on the time card, you'll notice next to each of the days of the week, there's an upside down triangle. If you select the triangle, we're getting a pop-up that allows us to add an adjustment. When we select this, our adjustment screen appears with quite a few options. The date automatically populates based on the add adjustment that you selected. And then you'll notice from the drop-down, you'll have multiple items to adjust. Now this is giving you the types of earnings that you have permissions to add on to the time card. Keep in mind that each company is going to be slightly different based on which permissions they give you. So if I select the mileage option, it's asking me for an amount. Now remember, this is all configurable based on your company's needs. For my setup, it's asking me for a dollar amount. So I'm going to say that based on the miles that I drove, I need a $35 adjustment. If I'd like to tie it to a location or department, because those are my labor values, I can, and I can also add notes in. Maybe I want to say I drove 40 miles, which gave me the $35 calculation. Remember, notes are just a great way to know why any adjustments are being added to the timesheet. Once you add the notes, all you do is hit save, and you'll notice up here at the top we've got a new icon. It's telling us item saved, but next to the day of the week, we can see the little circle with the I in there. If I hover over it, it tells us this date has hours or dollars adjusted. Once we hit the Show Results option, if we look down at our summary, we can see that $35 mileage adjustment being added. Now, some of these options that I've shown you today may not be features that your company is utilizing, so if you have questions on the features, please reach out to your management team. You have made it to the end of part 3 of this training.